So that's a little bit of the age and gender who uses Second Life. In terms of
James, why do you think the gender is so different?
I think because to succeed in this environment, because it's really a social environment. It's not that compelling to be in Second Life by yourself. Again, while there are little games and stuff you can play, there's no narrative, there's no story that you're unlocking or points that you're accumulating that you can compare with your friend. So it really is a social environment, and women in Second Life seem to succeed at that. For example, if you track internally, we track statistics like how many friends do people have, how many groups do they belong to, how much currency do they have, how many groups did a person found, how much currency does the group have in its coffers. And basically, once you start looking at the high ends of those spectrums, like who has the most money, who founds the most groups, it's all women. Women totally control Second Life. Again, I think it has something to do with the social aspect of it. I don't know. Maybe the men come in and act like children, and the women come in and know how to manage them. I don't really know. But the fact of the matter is that Second Life ends up being a much more gender balanced service than most others, and all of it, by most measures of top users or top players, they're all women. One other thing I should mention, by the way, is Second Life is a very international product. More than 60% of the users of Second Life live outside of the United States. We have large contingents in Germany, in France. There's a big population in Brazil, which I don't really have a ready explanation for either. We have users in Japan, not as many in China as you might expect. I think our localization of the product into Chinese isn't as good, and there's a lot more competition in the Chinese markets for virtual worlds or for gaming experiences. So that's always been sort of an interesting thing as we build this system. Anything you build in Second Life is not only available to people all over the United States, but is available to people around the world. And in fact, the majority of the people who might come and look at things that you build or interact with your content don't speak English. And that's been an interesting challenge for us as a company. We need everything we do has to be localized into about 10 different languages, and localization is a really interesting and difficult challenge. Actually, I'm kind of curious.
Can you describe a little bit more, James? Just because, are you literally creating 10 languages so that anyone can use one of those 10 languages at any time? Or do you literally put different sort of language capacities in different servers around the world somehow?
There's three major parts to this system that we have to worry about. The first, sort of obviously, is our website. So if you have an account in Second Life, there's a my.secondlife.com that summarizes all your various account settings and lets you see which of your friends are online and provides news and that sort of thing. So obviously the website needs to be translated. All of the text that we provide has to be translated. Likewise, the client software, the software that we're running right now, all the words in the menus, all of the dialogues, all of the error messages, all of the button labels, all of that has to be translated into about 10 different languages. Interestingly, we do get some support from our community on that. We actually have a volunteer translator program, so we have some language translations that we probably wouldn't have gotten to as a company available in the product because our users are so passionate about it that they're willing to spend the time to translate it. For example, we have a Polish translation, which is not a big enough company for us to pursue, or not a big enough language for us to translate commercially, but our users do it for us, which is pretty neat. The last thing that has to be translated is in-world content, and this is actually kind of a problem because we don't provide very good tools to help our users do this. For example, if you look over here at this brownish chair, you'll see there's a tiny little bit of text above it that says obsessing, which I'm guessing means if I sit on this thing, I will adopt some sort of interesting pose. That text label only exists in English, and the chair object doesn't know what language all of us prefer to use, so it probably only presents it in English. So the way that this ends up working out in practice is that different sort of physical parts of the world, different areas of the world, tend to be places where people who speak different certain languages or are from certain countries tend to congregate. So like there are regions where the people who speak French hang out, and there are regions where the people who speak German hang out. And if you go to one of those regions, you'll all of the text chat scrolling by and all the voice chat will be in French or German. And likewise, all of the content will be in those languages.
So can I suggest, do the students have, in particular, have any questions for James on any of the issues he's been talking about? Or anyone obviously in the group?
I have a unrelated question, kind of, for James. Did you have any participation in the CSI New York episode with Second Life?
We did, actually. That was really funny. Our biggest worry there was we had no idea. Oh, for those who don't know, this was, God, how long ago was that? A year ago? I don't remember exactly.
I think it was 2007.
Yeah, so several years ago, the TV show CSI New York had an episode where the murderer was a Second Life user, and there was, I both pursued people in the virtual environment and then in the real world, and so they told us that they were going to do this episode, and we helped them film some scenes in Second Life. But the biggest worry for us was we didn't know how many people would sign up and how quickly. And that was actually at a time in our company's growth where we were kind of at the limit internally with our server infrastructure about how many people we could support online simultaneously. And so we were kind of worried that the show would air and all these new people would log in and just destroy the system. And so we had a very exciting day. The show airs at the same time in different time zones. So we got one big spike as it aired in the East Coast, and then a little bit of a lull, and then another spike as it aired on the West Coast. So yeah, that was pretty interesting. That was probably our biggest single press-driven hit to traffic.